Okay, we are live. If you're just hopping on and perhaps you're watching this recorded, just be aware that I'm going to let a few people hop into this stream before I start going through the update. But as you're hopping in, go ahead and let me know where you are watching from, and also what you think of this upcoming pattern that's happening in the next couple days. What this stream is going to be about, we're talking about the upcoming pattern that is going to lead to the possibility of river flooding. And yeah, it could be a pretty interesting time in that regard. So I'm just going to let a few more people hop into this stream. I'm going to make sure that it's working and whatnot before going too much further. And again, as you're hopping in, go ahead and let me know where you're watching from. And as you're hopping in, just so you know what I'm going to be talking about, I am going to be talking about this upcoming weather pattern and how we are going to have to deal with the possibility of some flooding, most likely. And I'm just going to make sure the audio is good. Let me know if the audio is good and the picture quality and everything. Sweet. Hello, everyone on YouTube, and hello, everyone on Facebook. Okay, let's see here. Sweet. Looks like it's working. All right, I'm just going to give it another minute or so for more people to hop on. If you guys wouldn't mind, just go ahead and hit the like button on the stream and whatnot. That'll definitely help get this stream out to more and more people. And also sharing this stream around would definitely help. And then we'll get chatting about this upcoming pattern. Okay, I think we are just about ready to go here. How's everybody doing tonight? Where's everybody watching from? Also, let me know how you guys like this new look on Facebook. Okay, hello everyone. Benjamin Yurkovich. Benjamin Yurkovich from Washington Weather Chasers here. And we are just starting to get rolling with this stream. All right, Puget Sound Storm Watch is watching. I see that. Sounds great. A bunch of people hopping on Facebook as well. Sweet, sweet, sweet. All right, I'm just going to do one more thing here before we get rolling, and then I promise you we will start with this live stream. So thank you so much for being patient so we can get more and more people into this stream. I just don't want to have to repeat myself too many times. So just want to give people a chance to hop on in, if you guys know what I mean. Yeah, we have a pretty interesting pattern showing up for sure. Okay. Okay. I am just about ready here. So we have a very interesting pattern coming up, as you guys can see, looking at this. We're looking at the European map right here. And this is showing what the European has been thinking for rainfall totals over the next 10 days. And if anything close to this were to occur, that would lead to quite a few issues. We're talking urban flooding, river flooding, the possibility of landslides in the region and whatnot. But before we get too much further into that, here's looking at the satellite imagery. This is looking at the infrared imagery. And this is the current system that we're dealing with. We have a little bit of rain that's been happening with this today. Some high elevation mountain snow, and east of the Cascades also ended up getting a little bit of snow with this as well. And if you guys see this right here off to the west, down here is Hawaii. This is the current plume of moisture that we're dealing with. But this is actually the plume that we're going to be dealing with the beginning of next week. And here is looking at the Japan Meteorological Agency and their satellite imagery. Look at this plume of moisture. This is what we're going to be dealing with at the beginning of next week right here. And this plume of moisture is eventually going to end up merging with this plume of moisture right here. And it's just going to stream right on in to Washington State. And I'll show you that. So there's the one that goes back to the Philippines. Here's the one that we're currently dealing with here. And as we stream through here, watch this. It eventually comes through and begins to merge down here. And boom, just a huge plume of moisture just barrels right into the Pacific Northwest, Washington State here. That would be very, very impressive if that were to occur just like that. And before I go any further, please go ahead and hit that like button if you're enjoying the stream so far. And also subscribe. All those things will help get this stream out to more and more people as we get going here. This is looking at what we currently have in effect for the state right now. We have a bunch of coastal flood advisories up for the San Juan Islands, Skagit County, Whatcom County, and there's probably also going to be a little bit of coastal flooding out there in Whidbey Island as well. And then we have coastal flood advisories up for the whole entire coast. There's gale warnings up out there over the Pacific Ocean just off the coast. And we have small craft advisories. And then we have a winter weather advisory up for the Cascades, where there's going to be some snow Friday night into Saturday. And we got some wind advisories east of the Cascade and down there in South Washington and Southeast Washington. We also have some wind advisories. And looking at some of these things here, this winter weather advisory, actually, I'm going to talk about that just a little bit later, but I wanted to highlight the fact that we have these rivers that are expected to possibly flood next week. Look at the amount of rivers that are expected to possibly reach moderate flood stage. So each one of these red boxes indicates a river that is expected to possibly reach moderate flood stage. So here we have the Skagit River by Concrete, and then out there by Mount Vernon, is expected to get to moderate. Right now, the Skykomish River is expected to get to moderate. The Snoqualmie, Skokomish, and down here the Cowlitz River is expected to get to moderate, and eventually the Snohomish River as well. And we're going to get to all those details in just a moment. Looking at the Snoqualmie River, check this out. This is what they're currently expecting out there near the falls on Tuesday morning. And it's been a while since it's gotten that high, I believe. And then this is looking at the Snoqualmie River out near Carnation. They're calling for currently a crest close to 58 feet. 58 feet is major flood stage. And it actually hangs out in moderate flood stage for a couple days, which would be exacerbating for some of those farmlands down there if that were to occur. And the last time the river got up towards 58 feet, if we scroll down, we can see some of the historical crests here. That would be the highest it's been since about 2002. And yeah, that would be interesting. So real quick, this is looking at some of the winds that we're expecting too. So on tomorrow, there's going to be a bit of a windy system. It's not going to be that windy compared to some of the systems that we've had over the last couple months, especially that October system. But it is going to be breezy out there on the coast. It's going to be noticeably breezy, especially up there in places by Nia Bay and Cape Flattery and whatnot. And then overnight Friday into Saturday morning, there's going to be a bit of a westerly surge down the Strait of Juan de Fuca. And I want to give you guys a little bit of a closer view of that real fast here. So coming into State View, actually maybe we'll go all the way into Seattle. I think that'll be best. There we go. So this is looking at the European model. We'll pop it on to Gus, and this is late Friday night. All right, so this is tomorrow afternoon. Seattle gusting to maybe 30, 35 according to the European. And then as we get into the evening, Seattle might be gusting up towards the upper 30s. And who knows, there might even be like a 40 mile per hour gust as we get late into the evening down there by Seattle. Not really worthy of a wind advisory at this point, but it'll be noticeably breezy for much of Washington up there in the Cascades as well. And then as we go through the night into Saturday morning, the European model is showing a bit of a westerly surge up there in the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and the 18Z model run actually boosted those totals. It's showing about a 50 mile per hour gust possible out there on Whidbey Island, and that would be really close to coinciding with the king tides out there in Whidbey Island as well. So if you know anyone that owns a house out there in West Beach Road, that could be super, super interesting in that regard as well. All right, I just checked my chat over here on YouTube. It wasn't working for a second. Now it is. Hello, everyone hopping in. Thank you so much. Let me know where you're watching from. And also, if you are enjoying this stream so far, please make sure and hit that like button. Both of those things will really help out. And as you've noticed, if you're watching on Facebook, I am also live over on YouTube. If you would rather watch a horizontal version of this stream, YouTube would be the place to watch the stream. Otherwise, you can keep on watching there on Facebook. And I'm just going to check one more thing here real fast before I get going too much further. And then we'll get rolling a little bit more. Okay, so another interesting thing is east of the Cascades, there are some wind advisories up. The National Weather Service in Spokane is calling for the possibility of 45 to 50 mile per hour gusts for Wenatchee and Ellensburg. Down there by Yakima, maybe 30 to 35 mile per hour gusts. Nothing too crazy, nothing that you guys aren't super used to, but it could blow some objects over. There could be some travel difficulties for high profile vehicles. And something I've been kind of keeping an eye on is as this system comes through, the wind direction is pretty consistently going to be out of the west, blowing towards the east. And we'll go back towards the regional view of the northwest here, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Put on the wind direction. So you can see the system comes through, and most of the wind is coming straight out of the west. And even though the wind is not necessarily incredibly strong, it is long duration wind blowing in the same direction for an extended amount of time. And when that kind of thing happens, it fosters a good environment for swells to build. So here's looking at total swells. You can see during the day on Friday, there's really not that big of swells off the Washington coast. But as we head into Saturday morning, there's going to be some pretty reasonable swells. And this is not wave height. This is just the swell in the open ocean. Look at this, 15 feet just off of the Washington coast on Saturday morning. I'm going to put, okay, I can't look at the 18Z with this. But that comes into the coast. And those big swells die down just a little bit by the time we get towards king tide. But there would still be some pretty decent waves coming towards the coast around king tide. So the significant wave height, that's the average of the upper third of the waves, max 14. So not the biggest waves ever, but if you back it up just a little bit, look at that, 17 feet. But it's not so much the size or the height of the waves that interests me with this. It's the fact that they're coming straight out of the west-northwest. Now, this is looking at the maximum wave height during the king tide out there by Westport. This is showing maximum wave heights just off the coast, up, around, and over 20 feet. So if we have these waves at king tide coming straight out of the west-northwest towards someplace like let's just say Westport, for example, there could be some pretty interesting conditions there in Westport. And for those of you guys that live out there in Westport, you're very familiar with that kind of situation. But that's usually what you're looking out for, is the waves coming straight out of the west, northwest. The last king tides back in the beginning of November, the swell direction was more out of the south, so it wasn't as favorable for the waves at Westport as this go around. There are coastal flood advisories up out there on the coast. If we were to take a look at that, I'm going to screenshot this right here real fast and then pop that right there. So coastal flood advisory out there on the coast from 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Saturday. Minor coastal flooding, expected inundation of around 2 feet above ground level is possible along shorelines and low-lying areas. And then also out there, the San Juan County lowlands, western Whatcom County lowlands, and western Skagit County, northwestern Snohomish County zones. Could be some minor coastal flooding. And there's probably a couple spots on Whidbey Island that are going to experience some issues as well. Yeah, and so let's talk about the snow just a little bit. Pop it onto the most recent model run of the NAM 3KM. There is going to be a little bit of snow. There is a winter weather advisory up in the Cascades, and I'll show you that here right now, actually, before we start looking at the snow on the models. But this is where we have our winter weather advisory up in the Cascades. And I'll go ahead and put this in a better position so all of you guys can read it. So winter weather advisory is in effect from 7 p.m. Friday to 10 p.m. Saturday. Snow is expected. Snow accumulations up to 5 to 10 inches at Stevens Pass is what the National Weather Service is expecting, gusting up to 35 miles per hour. Cascades of Snohomish and Northern King counties. And this is going to be kind of a temporary thing. On Friday into Saturday, the snow levels are temporarily going to be low enough. And then as we head further into the week, the snow levels are going to go up. And I can actually show you guys that here in just a second. All right, so if we were to zoom in towards Stevens Pass here, I can show you guys what the snow levels are going to be over the next several days. So today the snow level has been higher, but it's starting to go down now. And by the time we get to about 8 p.m., the snow level is going to start going down tomorrow afternoon. And by the time we get to about 7 p.m. on Friday, the snow level is expected to go below pass level, and it's going to stay below pass level through the morning on Sunday. So from tomorrow night through Sunday morning, if there's any precipitation falling up there at Stevens Pass, it's going to be falling in the form of snow, and there could be some travel issues. But notice this big bump right here. It goes above freezing in the evening on Monday and goes all the way up to nearly 7,000 feet by the time we get towards midnight on Monday. And it stays above freezing through a good portion of the day Tuesday and goes back up again as a possible other plume of moisture or atmospheric river comes toward the area. And as you guys are hopping in, this is Benjamin Yurkovich with Washington Weather Chasers, just doing an update for Washington State. Hey, Roadster Jim, thank you so much for becoming a member on the channel. So appreciate that. That really helps out. And I'll get to answering all of your guys' questions in a bit here. Yeah. All right. Going to continue on with this. All right. So now, looking at snow on the models aren't showing an incredible amount of snow if you look at the accumulated positive snow depth, But if you were to look at something like Snow Kachura, it looks much more impressive and maybe a little bit more in line with what the National Weather Service is showing up there in the mountains. If we were to go towards the Seattle view here, get a closer look at the mountains, the Stevens Pass area is right about in here, if you guys can see my cursor, and shows about a foot of snow up there when you're looking at the Kachura mode there. And I suppose we can also take a look at the HRRR model. Got to go to the 0Z run. Yeah, and the HRRR also showing about a foot. If we were to look at the positive snow depth change, it's showing quite a bit less when you're looking at that view. But yeah, we'll just have to see how much actually does accumulate up there. Okay, now I want to get talking about this over here. So this is going to be a potentially interesting event right here. There is a little bit of snowpack in the mountains, not as much as we would want normally by this time, but there is some snowpack in the mountains. And when this big plume of moisture, which look at this, extends all the way across the whole entire Pacific Ocean. If you guys didn't see it earlier, this is looking at the actual satellite imagery from the Japan Meteorological Agency. And this plume of moisture, I mean, that is just super, super impressive. Yeah, just look at that's the Philippines right there. It's going all the way across. And then we have the Hawaiian Islands right there. This is the plume of moisture that's currently affecting us. And this plume of moisture goes all the way from the Philippines and curls up towards the Aleutian Islands. And eventually this is going to merge with this plume right here by Hawaii. So watch, this is the plume that's over there that comes from the Philippines. And then this is the plume over by the Hawaiian Islands, and they kind of merge. You see that right there? Just to the north of the Hawaiian Islands, they kind of merge together, and it becomes just this super moisture plume. This is looking at precipitable water in inches. Just boom, tons of just tropical moisture being moved up towards Washington State, and it's just aimed. It looks like the model's been consistently just aiming it right towards Washington State. And of course, BC and Oregon are going to get in on the action as well, and it kind of wafts back and forth. Right now, it's looking like this is going to really begin to affect Washington State on Monday afternoon, evening, overnight Monday through Tuesday morning, and then it may shift south. I'm going to go on a bit of a closer view here now. It may shift south towards Oregon during the day on Tuesday, but the European then moves it back north by Tuesday night into Tuesday morning. Sorry, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. And so that would be pretty interesting. If we look at the earlier morning model run there, it shows the same thing. And if we were to pop over and look at rain totals, we'll do that right now. Go to the Washington State view here. Rain totals, precipitation. Jeez, it's just nasty. So first we're going to look at the 18Z model run all the way through Wednesday morning. So look at that. Through Wednesday morning, this is showing up around 10 to 12 inches of rain up there in the Skykomish River Basin. Down there by the Snoqualmie River Basin, we're looking at possibly around 10 inches. And then for river basins in South Washington, Cowlitz River, etc., look at this, right around Mount Rainier, close to a foot of rain. Some of that's going to fall in the form of snow, of course, in the upper elevations of Mount Rainier. And then down there in far South Washington, huge totals. I mean, that little bullseye right there in South Washington, according to this, the max, that's around 16 inches of precipitation. And then out there on the coastal ranges, just tons of rain out there. Look at that, the Willapa Hills. That's around 10 inches of rain just out there. And then if you look at the lowlands, look at that. If we go towards the Seattle view here, that's about 5 inches of rain over the next 6 days through Wednesday morning for Seattle. Some rain shadowing going on, but even the rain shadows are getting up over 2 inches of rain. And so there's going to be small stream flooding. There's definitely going to be some river flooding. And again, looking at this right here. So this is an interesting product from the National Weather Service. This is what they currently are thinking how the rivers are going to respond with this upcoming atmospheric river event. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the Snoqualmie River at Snoqualmie Falls. And I hope you guys can see this okay. I'm going to make sure that you guys can see this okay before I continue here. All right. Yeah, you guys can see it. Maybe not on Facebook. Here, I'll pop onto this view. That'll be better. Okay, so this is looking at Snoqualmie River near the falls. So this is Saturday, Sunday, and then the big atmospheric river begins to hit on Monday evening. And according to this latest forecast, which it says right here, official forecast, they're expecting it to reach flood stage by about 10 p.m. on Monday night. And then by 4 a.m. on Tuesday, they're expecting the Snoqualmie River up there by the falls to reach moderate flood stage and possibly crest by late Tuesday morning, up around 16.6 feet. And now, something that's always interesting to check is when is the last time the Snoqualmie River hit 16.6 feet? And well, it's not gotten up over 16 feet since 2022. 2022 was the last time, if I am looking at this correctly, that the river got to that level. The last couple of years, we haven't dealt with the river getting to that extent. And then this is looking at the Snoqualmie River near Carnation. And so hitting flood stage by about 4 a.m. on Tuesday, hitting moderate flood stage by about 10 a.m. on Tuesday. And then it gets really close to major flood stage with this current forecast by about 4 p.m. on Tuesday. And it stays near that level for quite a while. And notice this, because of that resurgence, remember how I showed you guys the atmospheric river? Here, I'm going to pop over to this as I'm talking about it. I'm going to pop right here. So the atmospheric river, this is the Monday segment through Tuesday morning, and then it goes south just ever so slightly. I'm going to pop this onto the 12Z. So Monday, and then it goes south ever so slightly on Tuesday morning, and then moves back north on Wednesday. So you can see the kind of 1-2 punch with that big storm. That is what we're seeing on kind of the dual crests of the Snoqualmie River. So what we really need to watch for, and the models are not quite showing this yet, what we really need to carefully watch and hope does not happen, is we need to see is if this little southward trend on Tuesday, if the models back away from that. Because the worst case scenario would be for this moisture plume to stay over basically one area all the way from Monday night through Thursday morning. That would be horrible for some areas if that were to occur. It is a good thing that the models are showing it moving south a little bit and kind of like sharing it with Oregon, so to speak, and then moving back north. And it's going to be bad enough, possibly, even if it does that. But we're just going to have to kind of carefully keep an eye on whether or not the models back away from moving it back down towards Oregon a little bit. Something we can do is we can look at what the GFS is showing with this. Stand by just for a second here. All right. So the GFS here, actually go to the same view I was looking at before. Pacific, wide view. All right. So there is the Monday atmospheric river right there. Monday during the day. And it actually moves that first atmospheric river further south faster on the GFS, all the way down towards California. And then it brings that next segment into Oregon. And then another segment comes in later in the week. So the GFS is in a bit of disagreement with the European model. The European model is probably more trustworthy in this situation. And then this is looking at the Canadian model just for funsies. Yes, funsies is a totally official term. All right, so there it is. Monday afternoon through evening shows that southward trend into Oregon and Northern California a little bit. And then it moves back north a little bit on Wednesday. And then another one comes up by the weekend. I mean, that would just be crazy. But all right, so for rain totals here, let's go ahead and go towards Washington State view. And I'm actually going to hop onto the European ensemble data here for this. Unfortunately, I cannot go all the way into Washington State when I'm on the ensemble view here, but we can look at this Pacific Northwest version here. All right, so here we go. This is looking through Wednesday morning, and even the European ensembles is showing like 3 to 4 inches for a lot of the South Washington lowlands. And then look at that up there by the Skykomish River basin. It's showing up over 10 inches on the ensemble. So that's pretty significant. And going back towards the European one more time on the state view here. Through Thursday morning, ends up getting up over 13 inches on this most recent model data here. Pretty crazy. Okay, so before we get any further with this, I'm actually going to take a break and look at your guys' comments for a moment. All right. Thanks again, Roadster Jim, for becoming a member on YouTube. Really appreciate that support. Go ahead and let me know where you guys are watching from. Also, let me know if you guys have any questions of any kind. Hello to all of you guys on Facebook as well. Let me know how you guys like this vertical format, if it's beneficial to you guys. Yeah, someone just said, seems like the AI model is becoming the most accurate. I have been hearing quite a bit about that model, and I've been looking at it some. We can take a quick look at it here. Currently on the European AI, we're not able to zoom in all the way to Washington State just yet, but if we were to pop on total precipitation here and go all the way through, we'll just bring it through Thursday morning. It's showing totals really similar to what the European model is showing. Just huge, huge rain totals. Thankfully, I'm going to pop over to this here again. Let me see, where'd that product go? All right, stand by just for a second here. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, and if you go way off into the future, I mean, look at that. It just keeps on piling up the rain. Pretty crazy. Roaster Gems, watch for Snohomish. That's awesome. Puget Sound Weather Watch brought up a good reminder of something to check. So this is looking at the atmospheric river scale forecast system. They rate the atmospheric rivers in categories. And so this is looking at the future 7 days here. And they're calling for category 5 atmospheric river for the southwest Washington coast. And then I bet you if there were to be these little dots, not just along the coast, but up in the Cascades, there would likely be category 5s up in the Cascades as well. So that's a pretty big deal. Tammy Jorgensen asks about the Still-Squamish River. Good call. Oh, this is what I was looking for just a minute ago. So this is looking at the snow levels up in Stevens Pass area. So here, I'm going to zoom in here again, and I'm going to show you guys this just for a second. All right, right there. If you're enjoying this stream, please make sure and hit that like button. That'll help out the channels. So this is looking at Stevens Pass snow levels. This is when the atmospheric river begins to hit early next week, goes way up. And then as we go through the day on Tuesday and that atmospheric river slides south towards Oregon a little bit, the snow levels are going to go back down temporarily. And then as the atmospheric river slides back north again, it's going to raise the snow levels back up towards 6,000 feet. And then eventually towards the end of the week, we probably are going to dip back below pass level with the snow levels. All right, so yeah, let's take a look again at all the rivers here. So this is looking at the Skagit River. Skagit River is expected to almost hit major flood stage. I believe major flood stage is right at 33 feet. 32.5. Okay, so the Skagit River is forecasted to hit 32.33 feet by 4 p.m. on Tuesday. Up there by Concrete. That's really close to major. And then we have the Skagit River, which currently is forecast to get up towards the upper ends of moderate flood stage by Wednesday morning. And the last time the Skagit River got that high, you guys probably all remember the crazy floods of November of 2021. but that was the last time the river got up over 30 feet. That time, though, the river got to 37.32 feet, which was the third highest crest on the Skagit River ever recorded. So we're not quite expecting that level of flooding just yet. Now, I'm just going to work my way south here. Currently, the Still-Squamish River in Arlington is only expected to hit action stage. I would be surprised if that's all that were to occur. South Fork down there by Granite Falls is not quite expected to hit flood stage just yet, but that could definitely change. Skykomish River near Gold Bar is expected to get up towards moderate flood stage by about 4 a.m. on Tuesday. And then I already showed a Snoqualmie River earlier, so I'm not going to hang out on it for too long. But the Snoqualmie River expected to get up towards moderate flood stage by the falls on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. And then also around the same time down there by Carnation, expected to get up close to major flood stage, which is at 58 feet. It's expected to get to 57.9 feet right now. It's 57.95 feet on Tuesday morning, and then hang out at that level. Jeez. Yeah, I tell you guys, if that plume does not slide south for a little while into Oregon and then come back north and just hangs out over Washington the whole time, that's when we're going to start approaching this more major territory, if that were to occur. And then looking at some of the rivers down south, the Cedar River is currently expected to hit slight. Yakima River out there by Easton. Let's see, is that slight or is that action? Okay, never mind. So the yellow is action. My bad. A lot of rivers down in this area expected to hit action levels. Skokomish expected to hit moderate. And then we have the Cowlitz River, which is currently expected to hit 21.15 feet on Tuesday. It's going to get up towards moderate flood stage, probably sometime in the afternoon on Tuesday, and then hang out in moderate flood stage for a couple days. Now, keep in mind, we're still several days out from all of this, and so these forecasts are going to change a little bit as the models get more and more refined. The last time the Cowlitz River hit 21.5 feet was back in 2023. And then we got the Grays Harbor, the Grays River, probably going to get up towards slight flood stage, possibly approaching moderate. And the last time it got to 29.89 feet. Yeah, it was earlier this year. Earlier this year, that river got up towards 31.92 feet. All right. Any other Washington rivers I should talk about? And yeah, I mean, there's actually going to be some action out there in the Natchez River and the Yakima River. It's going to be good for those rivers. Currently, the Nooksack is not expected to get into flood stage, but that could change. Okay, I'm going to pop this on a satellite view here. I'm going to look at your guys' comments a little bit. If you guys are enjoying this stream, please make sure and hit that like button, all that good stuff. Hey, Paddle Racing, I see you in the chat here. Yep, after the big floods of November 2021 up in Whatcom County, ended up going up to Sumas and did some relief work up there. Roadster Jim asks, late opening for the ski resorts? For Snoqualmie and Stevens Pass, it may be a little bit of a late opening. 1 second here. Yeah, normally this is when the passes open. So Stevens Pass normally opens on December 8th. The summit of Snoqualmie on December 12th. So I would be kind of surprised. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Mission Ridge, I think I saw that they were getting close to being open. All right, if you guys have any questions, go ahead. Yes, Gargus Maximus. I may have actually forgotten to talk about the Snohomish River. That's a good call. Thanks for mentioning that. So the Snohomish River is going to crest later. It takes a while for the Skykomish River and the Snoqualmie River to flow down and eventually merge and become the Snohomish River. But currently, the Snohomish River is expected to get to moderate flood stage in the afternoon on Tuesday, and then by Tuesday night, it's going to crest. It's what the current thinking is, around 28.8 feet, and then it's going to stay in moderate flood stage all the way through Thursday afternoon is what they're currently thinking. The last time the river got 28.08 feet was a while ago. 2020. So this would be the Snohomish River's highest level since 2020, if what we're seeing here is correct. All right, what else did I want to talk about here? All right. Is there anything you guys would really like to see or hear about? Is it safe to drive to Everett from the Tri-Cities Saturday morning? Yeah, I would take I-90, Marlon. The snow levels are going to be above Snoqualmie Pass level, most likely. We can double check that for you. Yeah, so currently it's looking like the snow levels are going to be above Snoqualmie Pass clear through next weekend. So avoid Stevens Pass on Saturday if you don't want to drive in snow. Roland asks, what about wind with this upcoming system? Touched on that a little bit earlier. We can look at that again here. And of course, if you guys are enjoying the stream, please make sure and hit that thumbs up button. And also, if you guys know anyone that may enjoy this kind of content, please let them know about this channel. You can also copy the link and share it to your social media platforms, etc., etc. And if you're on Facebook, you could share this around as well. And if you're watching on Facebook, let's do something kind of fun. If you love snow, go ahead and heart this post. If you hate snow, go ahead and wow this post. And also let me know, if you're watching on Facebook, what you think about this vertical format of streaming. Okay, so looking at the wind. Gonna pop on to the state view, actually. All right. So there is going to be a system that's going to come through tomorrow, and it's going to begin getting a little bit breezy from about King County south by Friday morning to afternoon. It's also going to start getting breezy up there on the coast and in the mountains and whatnot. A little bit down there in southeast Washington. And by the time we get towards the evening on Friday, there's going to be some decent wind coming down the Strait of Juan de Fuca, gusting up over 40 miles per hour out there. and some decently strong wind, especially in the upper terrain of the Cascades. Out there by Bluett's Pass is going to be getting pretty windy. And then this most recent run of the HRRR, it might be overdoing it, but it does show some winds out of the west in the Strait of Juan de Fuca up over 55 miles per hour going into Whidbey Island. And it does that in like the middle of the night. High tide. So right here, this is 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. So high tide is right about there for Whidbey Island. And if we were to pop over to the European model waves, around that time, it's kind of hard to see, but it looks like the maximum wave height in the Strait of Juan de Fuca is going to be around 12 feet around King Tide on West Beach Road. So that's something to be aware of. Okay, I am going to look at your guys' comments a little bit more here. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Thanks for everyone that's watching, joining on. When can Seattle have snow? Everyone wants to know about snow. I have been resisting talking about Arctic air and snow and all those kind of things. But since there's a couple of you guys asking, we'll take a look real quick at what the European AI has been showing. Okay. So this is looking at 500 millibar heights. Makes it really easy to see troughs and ridges. So this is looking at the pattern we're going to be dealing with right here next week. Kind of you see this right here, really strong jet coming right towards the Pacific Northwest. And this is our atmospheric river. Multiple shots throughout the week. And then the European AI at this time is showing a block of high pressure, a big ridge, sliding kind of over the Aleutian Islands, Alaska, and shunting this trough right here a little bit more over us. That would be good for mountain snow, maybe some wind. And then that ridge in the long range, we're now looking over 10 days out. This is going to change a whole lot. But the model has been showing the possibility of some cold air way off in that range. It's not really worth getting caught up in that just yet. If we look at the European AI ensemble, so here's this week right here. The ensemble data does show that trough. The ensemble kind of for late next week in the weekend has that colder trough possibly getting hung up to our north, up there in British Columbia. That would make for an active storm track for us. But I would not be surprised if there's a shot of cold at some point for sure. Looking at the European ensemble data, also kind of shows that trough getting hung up there in British Columbia and maybe getting absorbed with some energy coming out of the West Pacific towards us. And of course, if we were to look at the European weeklies, they kind of show a bit more of a favorable signal there. And then a colder signal towards Christmas time, possibly. But we can't know for sure what's going to happen. It's all going to come down to the details. So I would encourage anybody just to keep your hopes for snow in the gutter. And then once the possibility starts looking more and more likely, I'll start talking about it more and more. But, I mean, regardless, it's looking pretty dang active, in my opinion, for the rest of the month, really. Okay, if you guys have been enjoying the stream, please make sure and hit that like button. Let me know if you have any questions. PNW Hawk, late to the show. Thanks for the stream. What are the wind implications for the Kitsap Peninsula? Looks like, as well as forecast rain totals. South Kitsap, to be specific. You're going to get a bit breezy tomorrow. Nothing too crazy in regards to rain totals. Let me go back to just the regular European here. Go into a closer view. Oh, I just realized I'm missing a bunch of comments on Facebook here. Kathy wants to know about the Cowlitz River. Maggie, currently the Still-Squamish River is not forecasted to get over flood stage. If I remember correct, let's double check that. But I would be a little bit surprised if that's actually the case. Yeah, currently the Still-Squamish River is only forecasted to get to action, but we're just going to have to keep a close eye and see what ends up happening over the next couple days. All right, getting back to PNW Hawk's question, talking about the South Kitsap Peninsula. Yeah, tomorrow there may be the possibility of a wind gust. 30, 35, maybe 40 miles per hour by the time we get through tomorrow evening, but all the leaves are off the trees. We've already had a couple decent wind events. I don't think it's going to cause that many issues wind-wise. But looking at precipitation, do you have an actual town that you could refer me to, PNW Hawk, that I could look for here? Roadster Jim says, keep the coolest air to the east. Hate to snow shovel. Yeah, fun thing. That's always fun to do. Who wants a snowpocalypse? All right. There we go. Little poll started on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, you can feel free to hop over and vote on this poll I just started on YouTube. All right, PNW Hawk is watching from Port Orchard. So here, I'll give you a more exact forecast here for Port Orchard and rain totals. All right. So Port Orchard, that is right kind of in here. Yeah, so through Tuesday morning, I wouldn't be surprised if Port Orchard had anywhere from 3 to 3.5 inches of rain. And then the European model by Thursday evening wants to have Port Orchard being close to 6 inches of rain. That would be something. Kelly Jones, watch from Westport, Grayland area. Yeah, so Westport and Grayland, I talked about this just a little bit earlier, but there is going to be a king tide tomorrow and on Saturday. But the thing with Saturday is there's actually going to be a decent swell out of the west for Westport, right around king tide. And so the significant wave height around king tide, it's not the biggest waves ever, but they're coming straight out of the west-northwest with a significant wave height around 14 feet, individual max wave height around 25 feet. So that could leave a dent in Westport. You guys are familiar with that. Okay, guys, if you've been watching on Facebook, please let me know how you guys have liked this vertical live streaming format. It's kind of a new thing, and I'm happy that it's worked out so far. And there's probably a couple things I did not get around to talking about. I'm sorry about that if I did not. But I think I'm going to get finished with this live stream here, and I'll probably do some live streaming over the next couple days, definitely next week. Be watching for flooding coverage on Washington Weather Chasers. Be checking back. I also plan on uploading a forecast video tomorrow morning on my YouTube channel, if you guys want to check that out. And also, if you guys are interested, recently opened a new Washington Weather Chasers shop. You can find that by looking up awxchasers.shop. Got some fun stuff on here. A lot of people liked this Heart If You Love Snow t-shirt. And then also something for people to be aware of is here on the YouTube channel. Finally got things monetized. Let's see here. Videos. Yeah, so you guys can become members on the YouTube channel. Sorry about that little delay there. I was trying to look for something, but I can't find it. But yeah, you can become members on the YouTube channel. And if you're watching on Facebook, you can become subscribers on the Facebook channel. And I'm actually thinking about making a different tiered membership platform off of YouTube and off of Facebook to kind of centralize things. But if you do become a member or a subscriber, I'll invite you to a private chat, an exclusive chat, and also try to post some exclusive content and do Q&As and stuff like that. And once we start getting towards a more interesting pattern, I might do a bit more of like a member and subscriber exclusive type live stream. All right, folks. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight, and I will talk to you guys later.